Hi, this is Building Behavior Block by Block, and I am Emily Hilker, the Behavior Specialist. And this week, we will be talking about behavior contracts. So this is just what you think it is. It is a contract. It is an agreement, a written agreement that two people or two parties are making. It's based on positive reinforcement, so there is some kind of reward tied to the behavior contract, but there also are negative or punishment type consequences tied to this. So what you're doing is you're simply writing out exactly what kind of behavior you're expecting in the classroom from a student, and you are spelling out what that student can earn or what consequences might follow if that student does not uphold their end of the contract. Oftentimes, you might include parents in this conversation. You might include administration. It really just depends on the team that you feel best fits this student. So for this to work, a student has to be able to understand delayed reinforcement. With a behavior contract, it won't be like a token economy where the student is getting a token or some kind of reinforcement as soon as you see the behavior. This is something that is delayed. So when I make the behavior contract with the student and agree to a specific behavior that we're working on, I wouldn't reinforce that behavior till the end of class or the end of the week or whatever the contract spells out. So for this to work, you need to make sure that the student understands and is motivated by delayed reinforcement. So how do you implement this? First, you need to arrange a meeting. And like I talked about, you need to think about who the team members should be. You have to have the student and you have to have the teacher. Those are a must. And your team could stop there. But if you feel that it would help to have parents at that meeting, maybe you're working with an intervention specialist, maybe a health instructional assistant, maybe a therapist or an administrator. It's really up to you what that team would look like, but you need to arrange that meeting and have those people there because the discussion needs to happen at that meeting. And you need to talk as a team to determine what behavior will be part of this contract. Step 2 is choosing that behavior. And you really need to limit yourself to 1 or 2 behaviors. You need to pick a very specific behavior that you're going to focus on with your contract. And you don't want it to be vague and overarching, like be respectful. That is very unclear of what that looks like and what that means. Another one that you might think of that would cover a lot of things is act appropriately. That would not be something that you would choose for a behavior contract. You want this to be a very specific behavior. The example that I listed here is start your work within 2 minutes of directions. It should be so clear that both you and the student know exactly what it looks like, what it sounds like, when it happens, when it doesn't happen, so that you know whether the contract has been upheld or not. Step 3 is deciding on the consequences, and this is both positive and negative. So, what will the student earn if they uphold their end of the contract? The example I listed here is 10 minutes of technology time. You would write that reward into the contract. In addition, you would write the consequence if the contract was not upheld, and that would be some form of punishment. Usually that is a loss of a privilege or that's adding something that the student doesn't like additional work. The example I gave here was to complete a think sheet, which is a reflection tool after a problem behavior occurs. The student is filling out what happened, why did it happen, what are you going to do next time? And then they would have to take that home and get a parent to sign it. These are just examples. You would again decide these things at the team meeting and you would write them into the contract. And everyone needs to be in agreement of what these things are. Then you need to be consistent. You need to follow through. If you said this is the reward, as the teacher, you need to make sure that reward is happening when the contract actually is working. In addition, you need to follow up with a negative consequence with the form of punishment when the contract is not being upheld. If you are not consistent, a behavior contract will not work. Step 5, just is to follow up. You want to schedule a meeting to touch base. You want to invite those same team members. You want to see how are things going? Is it working? Do we need to make changes? Congratulate each other on the success of the contract. Maybe you want to add a second behavior at that time. Maybe you want to change up what the reward looks like. All of those things would happen in follow-up meetings. But you wouldn't want to have a follow-up meeting until you've given the contract time to work, and that may take a couple weeks. You're going to have some hiccups along the road. So if you have one problem with the contract, you don't throw it away or quickly call a meeting. You push through for a little bit and really let it have some time. But again, make sure that you're consistent in both types of consequences to ensure that this contract has a chance to work. These are just some examples that I found online of what a contract could look like. Now, depending on what grade level you teach, you may add pictures to this. You may change the format and simplify this a little bit. But really the key is that you have the behavior that you're working on. You might list the positive behavior that you want to see increase. You may also include the negative behavior that you want to see decrease. You must include what the rewards are and what the consequences or punishment will be. And then you have to sign, both members, teacher and student. And if other team members are there, have a place for them to sign. Here's another example. The goals would be what behaviors that you're working on, the consequences, the rewards, signatures. And finally, another one. These are the goals, steps on how you will achieve those goals. You should add on here what you're going to be working for, the rewards and the punishment. Sign. And then this one allows you to have data for 4 weeks, just a check system whether you met the reward or not. You could find tons of examples of these online. Teachers Pay Teachers have a lot of pre-made ones that you can edit, but it's just a very basic form that you could even just handwrite and then both sign. That is it for our video this week on behavior contracts. I know a lot of families use behavior contracts at home, so this is not something that is just school related. You could definitely implement this to complete chores at home, to complete homework, just to interact and be positive with your siblings. All of those things would be appropriate for a behavior contract. Just follow those same steps on setting up your team meeting, being consistent, being really clear about what behavior you're looking for and what the rewards and consequence or punishment would be. If you have any questions about implementing a behavior contract, if you're looking for more examples or want some help, please reach out and email me, and I would be happy to touch base with you.